I know, but it's just funny.
I wasn't able to check Facebook the last couple hours.
Well, just let me know.
Okay. Yeah. We were able to sell all the tickets in like 30 minutes. Yeah. Sterling was doing a fundraiser for bands, and it's the weirdest fundraiser I've ever heard of. And you buy a ticket, and the ticket has it's called Caladunga, and it's there's a field with coordinates basically on it, and they're going to release a cow onto the field, and wherever the cow poos, whatever grid spot that poos on is the winner.
You can buy more than one ticket.
You buy more than one ticket, and the prize is $10,000 cash. Like actually, yeah, $10,000. Yeah.
You get one up in Missouri. Cow chip bingo.
Cow chip bingo. Yeah. I guess we weren't that creative up in Oregon, I guess.
I've never heard of that.
Y'all could have done wherever a homeless person went.
Yeah.
Grand prize was this one. Just kidding.
Yeah, used needles maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they changed it up this time. So back to what you said, the flat surfaces, I can wear the
Hey there.
left or right side.
I'm Ryan. We've met before, haven't we? You look really familiar.
No surgery or no?
Yeah, no, good to have you today.
And then I'll get it even smaller.
You from Nashville?
Yeah. How we been?
Okay, all right.
Amazing. So Jenny's son got home in second place. Luke Taylor won the Laker ticket. Well, how do you do? I know, he won the whole cornhole thing. Luke Taylor?
Are you serious?
Yeah, he got the Laker ticket. So it was like, let's see, I think I got a picture of him holding it. It was really cool. Yeah. It was like 10:39. They were really proud of themselves after that. So that was good. And then Asa got like another prize. So yeah, it was fun.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started here.
We can. You're already. I'm gonna pull my phone out. I can't track him with my phone.
Technology is a beautiful thing. It's been great for marriages.
Yeah, very healthy. Talking here about.
So we're going to be on page 42. So we're going to be on page 42, and we'll get started with a quick word of prayer, and then we'll jump back into our lesson material here. So let's pray together. God, I thank you so much for another beautiful day. We know we've got storms coming tomorrow, and so we pray that you watch over all of us as we go about our business tomorrow. We pray that we stay safe, help us to drive safe, be with all of our kids at school, and we pray that it's a safe and productive day all around. So watch over us tonight as we enter into our Bible study. We certainly do pray that you be with our hearts and our minds and have them open to the truths contained in your scriptures. We ask that you help us to apply these to our own lives, to teach other people, to be very diligent about that. Help us to be open to opportunities when they present themselves, that we may teach the gospel to those who need to know you, who have not known you, and who need your Son, Jesus Christ. We have a number of our own members who are going through challenging times right now. You know everybody's burdens. You know all of our challenges. In particular, I want to lift up Jerry Trineri right now, who's he and his wife one of our newer members here. We pray that you watch him after fracturing his back. Continue to help him to feel better, to show improvement from day to day and week to week, and to get back to a relatively normal life as soon as possible. Please watch over them and help us as a church to take this opportunity for them as new members to show them our love and our hospitality and our willingness to help in any way that we can. We love you so much, God, and we pray that our love for each other would continue to abound more and more. We pray all this in your Son's name. Amen. All right, so we've been going through our material on personal evangelism, and we've got to this chapter on faith and hearing, and kind of the connection between hearing the gospel and the way that the gospel fosters faith once we've heard it. Let's go to page 42, and let's address an issue here that comes up is, what if, so let's say you're out there and you've got that friend, that coworker, that family member, probably family member more than anybody else, at least in my personal experience, and you think, like, I think I've got an opening here, like I can talk to them about Jesus, I can talk to them about my faith, about the church, and you try to start the conversation, and the conversation is met with a polite but very firm, no thank you, not really interested. Give me some examples of the reasons that someone may politely decline. So I'm not talking about a door being slammed shut in your face. I'm not talking about a hostile person. I'm not talking about someone who hates God and resents religion and fixates all their hatred on you as the representative of Christianity. I'm just talking about someone who's like, yeah, you know what? I don't know. I'm just not really a church kind of guy. Like, how does that go? Like, what are the excuses that people offer? What? At some point, don't you start to feel yourself unplugging a little bit? Like, and it's not that it's not that you hate that sports team. You don't hate them. Like, you just are like, I'm getting tired of rooting for a loser, so I'm just not going to root for them anymore. So I think that's a good way to look at it. Gina, go ahead.
I'm already exhausted.
I think I'm already spread thin with life. We've got this election going on right now, and my bandwidth is just not. I just don't have the bandwidth for. You got an election, you've got the economy, you've got the conflicts around the world. Work has been really stressful. I just don't really have the room for it. I don't have the bandwidth for it anymore. Linda?
I think they're just uncomfortable about the subject.
Yeah, just general discomfort.
Away from it because they're uncomfortable.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it, and they're not mean about it. They just don't want to talk about it. It's sort of the same. It's sort of the same, and I'll admit it. I don't know. A lot of people are like me, I suppose. But well, why don't you just go see the doctor about it, Ryan? I don't really like going to see the doctor. I'll be okay. Just give me some ibuprofen and I'll walk it off. And it's not like I don't hate doctors or anything like that, right? But some of these people have that attitude where I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about it because maybe I know that going to church or having a Bible study is going to show me stuff that I don't like or that confronts me about something, and I just don't want to go down that road. Rebecca and then Susan.
They're already a good person or somebody who has some sort of religion already.
Yeah, already a good. Hey, listen, I maybe I believe in God. I kind of believe in God. I think I'm there in the zone of believing in God, and I just show that belief by I'm a good citizen, pay my taxes, follow the laws, give a little to charity. I'm a nice guy. Wave people in on the on-ramp at the freeway. Listen, in Memphis, right? In Memphis, you might as well be a saint at that point if you're going to let people on the freeway. But yeah, that's a good one also, Susan.
Well, she took one of them, but then you said the second part of the other.
Oh.
About you not wanting to go to the doctor. They don't want to get into religious discussions because they might be convicted. They might find there's something wrong with how they're living.
And
they might already know that, and they don't want it pointed out.
And deep down inside, they already know something isn't working for me. Something's not right. I know that I need this thing. I just don't have either the humility. Maybe it's a humility thing. I haven't been softened to that point where I'm willing to even talk about it. So, Jessica and then Alex.
I have heard before where they're like, oh, I'm just not very religious. I'm spiritual, but I'm just not very religious.
That's a very common one, yeah.
And I heard that a lot, and it kind of goes along with I'm a good person type thing, but they're spiritual, but they don't like organized religion.
You know what's funny is, That is one of those words that Inigo Montoya would come in and say, you keep on using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. Like in fairness to what the scriptures actually say, the scriptures don't actually use the word religious very often. Like, off the top of my head, I can think of Acts chapter 17. I see that you're religious in many respects. Like, that's one. James chapter 1 also talks about religion. And off the top of my head, there aren't very many verses that use the word religion or religious. And so I'm not really into religion. That the New Testament doesn't really talk that much about religion.
You're not into helping orphans?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is pure and undefiled religion in the sight of God, is to visit orphans and widows in their distress and keep yourself unstained by the world. And I think that when Paul confronted them in Athens about, well, I see you're very religious in many respects, I'm not saying he was being sarcastic, but he certainly isn't talking about their religion in a particularly complimentary way. It's like, you're religious in many respects in the respect that you don't really have anything firm that you believe in. And so when people say, well, I'm spiritual but not religious, I'm like, well, then you'll love this. Because this is Romans 12 too. This is the having your mind transformed into something else. This is John chapter 3, and you must be born again. This is John chapter 6. The flesh profits nothing. It's the Spirit that actually matters. Like, you would love this. If you don't like religion, but you like spirituality, well, have you read this? And so, yeah, that is a very common one. Alex, and then we got to move on for the sake of time. Go ahead, Alex.
I think people they don't pray without their time. They always feel like they're too busy.
Yeah.
That they don't have enough time to go to church because they have other stuff they need to get done.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, we could do a whole lesson on time management. We could do a whole sermon, a whole quarter on time management, I'm sure. But then we'd be questioning our time management if it took a whole quarter. See what I did there? But that's true, like, and someone could be very polite about it. I'm not saying there's no animosity. It's the same way when someone, like, I like sports. I like to watch sports. But I'm not a huge baseball fan. And so when someone says, hey, I've been watching the World Series, I'm like, no, I don't like the Yankees. I don't care about the Dodgers. So, no. What? You're not watching the World Series? Oh, you gotta watch. It's the World Series. Like, okay, I don't really care about it. I don't have a ton of time. And I think people can approach it the same way with again, religion, spirituality, with God, with Bible study. There's no animosity. They don't hate it. They're just like, I just don't really feel like the connection to it. I don't want to give my time to something like that. Okay, now, underpinning all of this is just the notion of I don't want to listen what you have to say. And, this is of course a safe space in here where we talk about our faith. A lot of this is theoretical, but we want to keep this super, super practical. So how do we crack that shell somehow? How do we get underneath that? It's a defensive posture, really. I mean, it's what we're talking about. It's a defensive posture. How do we get beyond the defenses of someone who puts that up as their golden shield when I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what you have to say. How do we get past that?
Sometimes you just have to pray.
Sometimes you just got to leave it in God's hands. I think there's a lot of wisdom there, Gina, because there are times where maybe right now isn't the time that works. But 2 years from now, life can change a lot in 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. Life can change a lot. I told you about my uncle. I know I've said this story before. I said it about a month or so ago in another class that we were doing on evangelism. And, my uncle and my aunt, so this is my mom's sister and her husband, okay? So uncle by marriage. And he was not opposed to my aunt going to church. When they had kids, he was not opposed to the kids going to church. He encouraged it. In fact, whenever any of the kids would give my aunt guff about, I don't want to go to church, he'd say, you listen to your mother, get in the car and go to church. Right? So he was not anti-church. It just wasn't for him. He liked to stay home on Sunday mornings. Then the hurricane hit. And they were having to hide out in the treehouse in their backyard while 9 feet of water overtook their home and destroyed everything that they had. And the church stepped in and helped them. They rebuilt their house. They got their life back, replaced all their possessions. And he saw the way that the church banded together to help people during that crisis. And he got baptized. I don't know exactly when. It was a month later, a few weeks later, whatever it happened to be. But he got baptized. And to this day, he loves listening to my sermons. He'll live stream our live stream because he just loves to listen. He'll send me feedback about it, and so he's a very, very much an engaged person of faith now. So 15 years ago, no, that wasn't the right time. But a hurricane will wise you up really fast. That's for a lot of people. So I think there's a timing thing, and you just say, God, listen, God, I tried. I said what needed to be said. I put it out there. I planted the seed. And listen, one man plants, another man waters. God's the one who causes the growth, and that'll happen in God's time. There's a lot of wisdom there, just timing. I would end the conversation by saying, hey, listen, I just want you to know I am always available for you. If you ever have a Bible question, if you ever get to a point in your life where you would like to talk about faith, I am here. I will always be here. I will always answer a text message. I will always answer the phone. I will always be here. And I'm not gonna push it on you. I'm not gonna get up in your face about it. If you're not interested right now, that's fine. I will always be here if you ever have any questions. Just leave the door open like that. I think that's just where you've done what you needed to do. And that's all you can do. And maybe God changes the heart at some point. So a lot of wisdom there. What else can we do to help get past those defenses of, I just don't feel like hearing right now? Yeah, Megan?
I think empathizing and trying to actually listen and hear what the underlying reservation is. Like with your uncle, it sounds like he just didn't see a need for it until he saw that the church did fill a need.
Yeah.
But if he had been reminded been informed 15 years ago that that actually was a need for him and he just didn't realize it yet, maybe it could have happened 15 years earlier or whatever.
Yeah.
But asking questions like, wow, yeah, I hear you're feeling really weird about religion. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what's your experience with religion?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. And just walking through everything and unpacking it and trying to find out, okay, what is their underlying?
And it shows that you care about them and that you're not just trying to sell something, right?
If you do actually care about them.
Well, but yeah.
That's the praying part.
But yeah, that's the praying part. But what that shows is that I'm not selling you something, right? Because a pushy salesman wants you to buy the car whether you need it or not, whether you can afford it or not. The job, and this is not, there's a lot of people in sales, and I think there's nothing sinful about sales. You don't have to feel like you're some dirty, manipulative person if you're in sales. Like, I don't want to intimate that at all in any way. But there is something of the idea of, at the end of the day, whether someone can afford that car, whether someone needs that car, whether someone even walked in wanting that particular car, the salesman's going to try to convince you to take that car. And a lot of people can kind of see through that. And if we treat the gospel like that, people will see right through us. They will see right through us right away. And I'll applaud you. I think the reason why our Invite a Friend Sunday was so successful, and I'll reiterate, we had like 49 visitors that day. The reason why it was so successful is when I talked to a lot of these visitors, right, just kind of introduced myself, well, who'd you come with today? What's your relationship with them? You know what a lot of them said was, I've been friends with this person for 10 years now, and he's the nicest guy. I worked with this person. I never had a better coworker, someone who is more kind to me. This person's my neighbor, and I see the way that they love, and they're always so friendly and always so kind. It was genuineness that convinced people to come that Sunday. Not because we had new carpet put in, although it didn't hurt to have new carpet for Invite a Friend Sunday, right? But nobody was like buzzing at the ears like, oh, I heard they put new carpet. I gotta see this. It wasn't carpet that got them here. It was people being genuine and people being friendly. And so they'll see right through a sales pitch. I like that, Megan. That's a good point. Philip?
Not to backtrack too far, but you gotta mention the role of your aunt in that situation. I don't know how long they've been married or how long this has gone on or what. But had
a long time.
Had she not been convicted and steadfast, you may have never gotten to that point 15 years down the road.
Oh, you will be hard pressed to find a woman whose faith is deeper than my aunt's. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman, deeply faithful, very, very committed. She is still alive. I don't want to talk the past tense. She is the sort of person. Well, she's the sort of person that will take her kids by herself to church for like 17 years and stay patient and stay committed and submissive to a husband who did not go to church. So that just shows you who she was. So you can be a constant reminder and influence in people's lives. At the end of the day, we do need to remind people also, like if you want to put a little bit of push on someone, because I think there's a place for that. Like there is a place, like with the doctor thing, right? Oh, I don't need to see a doctor. I don't need to see a doctor. Rebecca doesn't let me get away with that, okay? Because if she believes that I'm in danger and she cares about me, she will force me to go to a doctor. She will make an appointment for me and then tell me, you have an eye doctor appointment on Thursday because your glasses broke and you haven't been wearing glasses for like 3 months now. So you have an eye appointment. So how do we put the squeeze a little bit on people? And of course, lovingly, patiently, but how? You're whispering about me. How do you put the squeeze on people? Like, what would that conversation sound like? What would you say to someone to put the squeeze on them a little bit? One thing I would say is I would try to remind them, and this is in the material, I would try to remind them that just because you don't like what a doctor has to say doesn't mean you're allowed to plug your ears and the disease just goes away. You might not like a diagnosis, but just like walking away and saying, plugging your ears and walking away from it, that doesn't suddenly make the disease gone. And I would press someone and I would say, all right, I get it. You're not interested in a Bible study, and I'm not gonna force you to sit down for a Bible study. But give me 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Just to remind you that you are a spiritual being underneath. You are. Whether you like it or not, whether you understand that fully or not, you're a spiritual being. You see beauty, you see ugliness, you see justice and injustice, you have a sense of right and wrong, you have a moral compass. You are a moral, ethical, deeply spiritual being. You are not just an animal. You are created in the image of God. And as such, you will always have a gnawing longing for the spiritual and the divine. And if you ever want to explore that and stop ignoring that huge part of who you are, please talk to me about that. And we can explore it together. Like that would be my pitch. And then I would leave it at that. But that would be how I would, because you don't just want to walk away from it going like, well, he's not interested, she's not interested. Oh, well. If you can get 30 seconds out of them and say one thing, to me, that is like in 30 seconds, that's the pitch I would throw at someone just to try and leave them with something that will be like gnawing at them a little bit. Yeah, Jacob?
I think something to add to that real quick pitch is deep down inside, I think most people understand something's going to happen to them when they die.
Yeah.
And just reminding them that, if we can learn a little bit more about who God is, He's got the answer to that.
Yeah.
I think something's going to happen when we die. We need to have the answer to what that is. And
yeah.
To know God better will answer that question.
And that's where, like, Acts chapter 17, that speech in Athens is so powerful because he is talking to an audience of people who they don't really know what they believe. They've sampled everything. And they've not firmed up on anything. And so his sermon to them in Acts chapter 17 is very powerful because he's essentially saying, listen, even your own poets acknowledge the divine spark that's within all of us, that there's a spiritual longing, even your own poets. And I can see it in your behavior here. You've got idols to all of these gods, which means you're looking for something. You're longing for something. How would you feel if I gave you one thing to hold on to? One thing that actually satisfies what all of these other idols can only offer you in a very small portion. See, and Acts 17 is a good place to go if you want to just give them something to chew on, because Paul's not he's preaching to people who are very similar to our world today. Deep, religious in all respects, but they believe everything, but really don't hold on to anything. Okay? So, good comment, Jacob. Very good. Yeah, Cameron.
So nothing happens unless there's a need to change, right? Like with your uncle.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine, and then he had a need for help, and the church came and offered that to him. That created the need to like, okay, maybe I do need to change.
Yeah.
So whether it's presenting the need, like talk about being a spiritual being, or just being a Christian your whole life, and then when they come across a downturn or something, that could be a need for you to go in and say, like, maybe we need to go to a higher power for this. So, and it's still saying nothing, or a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So you can't force someone to get, they have to come to that, and it's only their personal needs that's going to get them to change.
Yeah, when they recognize the need, we're not like veterinarians with an animal, right? You don't have to have permission from an animal to, with a syringe to give it the medicine that it needs. You don't have to have anybody's consent with that. We're not the same way. You have to convince us to take the medicine, and we have to convince ourselves that we have a need, right? We need to believe that the need is there before we're willing to take the medicine that's offered to us. Yeah, Rebecca?
And my brain was going to a subtle reminder that tomorrow is not promised.
Yeah.
And that might introduce the need that he's talking about. But, oh, wait, you're right. What is going to happen if tomorrow's not promised?
Yeah. Yeah. What would you do? Where would you be? Now, and someone may study with you, and at the end of the study, they may still say, well, I don't believe it. But at the very least, again, what we've done is we have said, can I tell you where my comfort is? Can I tell you where my assurance is? Can I tell you about what my hope is? Can I show you 1 Corinthians 15 and show you why I'm willing to wager everything? I'm willing to wager everything, and wager's not what the proposition is, by the way, as the gospel presents it. But for lack of a better term, 1 Corinthians 15 presents it as you can be, if the resurrection is true, then you have defeated death through Jesus Christ. Death is defeated. Sin is dealt with. Death is defeated. And you're raised anew on the last day. But if there is no resurrection, well, then I guess I wasted everything. And I'm the most pathetic person who's ever lived. And can I show you why I have that assurance, why I have that faith in things that are not seen, why I have that promise and I have that hope? So at the very least, you've said, here's where I get my comfort. Yeah, Megan?
It can also be helpful to take it out of the context of anything spiritual, because this is already a skill set that we have and we exercise on a regular basis. Convincing other people to love the things that we love is something that everybody in this room already does.
Yep.
I can say it now that Drew's in here and I can pick on him, but I do not like football. It's boring. It's a weird sport. And yet, for a decade now, he shows me football memes, he talks to me about football stats, and he'll even preface it and be like, I know you don't care about this at all, but I have to share it with you. I just love it so much. And I never feel mad at him about it. It's just I love hearing about the things that he loves. We already have these skills. We already know how to do this. It doesn't necessarily have to be this deep, intense conversation. It can just be something simple as, I saw this hilarious meme about 1 Corinthians, like, let me share it with you. Or I heard this mind-blowing quote about C.S. Lewis. You will never believe what C.S. Lewis said.
Yeah.
Like, just a casual thing that you're just dropping, or rather aggressively chucking breadcrumbs at people for a series of time.
Yeah. I think that's a good analogy, the football analogy. I mean, it's true. Every married couple is like that. Every friendship is like that. I don't like knitting and crocheting. I'm not ever going to get into knitting and crocheting, but I love that she loves it, and I want to hear her passion about it. She's never going to be passionate about running the way that I am, but when I say, oh, there's this runner on YouTube, look at his training plan right here that he's doing, and she said, oh, that's neat. Yeah. No, really what it is she's going, oh, that's neat. That's what crocheting looks like.
That's crocheting.
Crocheting is football watching go hand in hand together.
I absolutely do that simultaneously every Saturday.
For hours at a time.
But that is a good point, though, about it doesn't have to be a 45-minute profound Bible study. It can just be the if not constant, then the recurrent reminder that you are a person who holds your faith very deeply, that you care about these things, and that if you want to be my friend, you are never going to get away from Jesus. As long as you're my friend, Jesus is coming right along with me, and you're always going to be reminded of Jesus because you're my friend. So that's a very good point also. Let's go to Susan, you want to say something? Okay. Let's go to page 43. So, once we've maybe cracked the exterior a little bit, once we've maybe got past that first defensive line and they are willing to hear, hearing followed by action, right? That's the next phase of it, okay? Once they're willing to hear, then they need to be willing to act. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. But the next thing is, once you hear, well, you got to do something about it. So can I get a volunteer to read Matthew 7, 24 through 27? I think you know the parable well, but Matthew 7, somebody read 24 through 27 for me. Philip, would you do it? Since no one else volunteered.
Okay. 7:24.
Yeah.
Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like the wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. When the rain fell and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it.
So what's valuable about this is it gets to what a lot of the comments are that we've already been saying, which is persistence, being constant, sharing, just sharing your faith in kind of a regular manner. Like Cameron pointed out, taking the word advantage maybe has a negative connotation, but I think you know what I mean when I say taking advantage of stressful or distressing situations to help people recognize a deeper spiritual need. This is a great passage to go to for wisdom along those lines, because what it's saying is, all right, the storm hits everybody at some point. Hurricanes are they're not discriminatory, okay? They'll destroy the righteous and the unrighteous alike. People get caught up in storms, in floods, disease, pandemics, economic downturns, house fires, car accidents, whatever it is. The storm's going to hit you at some point, okay? I don't care who you are, how rich you are, how young you are, whatever. The storm's going to hit you at some point. So why is it that a Christian can withstand the storm if he or she does indeed have a strong and genuine and confident faith? Why can a Christian withstand the storm, but the unbeliever's life falls apart because of the storm? Matthew 7 provides the answer. One has a life that's built upon the rock, and what does the rock entail, right? Rock being a suitcase term. If you open up the suitcase, what's the definition that Jesus offers for the man who builds his house upon a rock? It's at the beginning of verse 24. What does it mean to build your house upon the rock? Everyone who
put his words,
hears these words and acts upon them. Okay, that is the definition. When you say, "Well, my house is built upon the rock," that's just paraphrasing. I have heard the words of the Lord and I am doing them. I'm putting them into action. Okay, so that's why that man's house withstood the storm. But the exact same storm, because Jesus uses parallel language, the exact same storm hits the other guy's house, and his house just crumbles because it's not built upon the foundation of hearing the word of the Lord and doing it. So when he's built his house upon the sand, everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act upon them is a foolish man who builds his house upon the sand. We've just got a few minutes left here. You have any thoughts or insights there from Matthew 7 before we move on? Anything else from that passage that you want to bring out that's apropos?
Just backing up 2 chapters of Matthew 5, the scripture tells us it's going to rain on the just and the unjust. It's going to rain on everybody, so you better have the foundation.
That's right. Yeah. So the storm's going to hit you at some point. And, the great equalizer being death. Because not every storm is made equal, okay? We don't live somewhere where hurricanes hit us, and even when they do infrequently, they've been weakened by landfall so much. So I don't know that a hurricane is as much of a clear and present danger to us as it is in Florida or New Orleans or somewhere like that.
It was in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. A place that least suspected it. They didn't believe that a hurricane was going to come and do what it did. But the great equalizer, beyond hurricanes and car accidents and house fires, I've never had a house fire. And are there people who go their entire lives without a house fire? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Not everybody goes their whole life without a house flood. Some people's roofs just come in and destroy the kitchen, right? Yeah. It was a flood, right? I mean, it was the plumbing. Yeah. Death is the great equalizer, though. Right? That's the one thing. That's the one experience that no matter who you are and where you live, what you go through in life, death is the one great equalizer. So, I go back to 1 Corinthians 15. I go back to Hebrews chapter 2. A lot of passages talk about death in that way. Okay, anything else? Yeah, Philip, and then Seth.
So sometimes someone if they may be going through something in their life, or sickness, child, death, or something, then they may ask you if you would pray for them. So my kind of question to you is, if someone asks you to pray, then that may be a door. What would be your pivot or your turn from someone asking you that to try to take it to another step?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I do get that a lot. I certainly hope that you have to put the work. You have to put the work on the. Again, I get back end and front end always mixed up. On the beginning, right? You got to put the work into a friendship. I don't know why my brain gets the two of them mixed. But there's a spatial thing about that that bothers me. But you have to put the work in at the beginning in building a friendship, so that when people go through that the neighbor, the coworker. My dad had several experiences like that, by the way. My dad worked in the corporate world for a very long time. He was a corporate tax executive. Ties and suits and the top floor of the building sort of stuff. And these are all very well put together people. But when life crashes for you, it crashes hard. And there were people that would talk to my dad, and he's told me a few stories about it, where people would go, "Hey, Paul, you know what, I know that you're a really religious guy. I'm not religious. I've never been religious. But, man, we're just going through it right now. The kid's going through cancer treatment, death of a parent, something traumatic. And Paul, I know that you're a really religious man. Would you pray for me? It's weird to ask. Would you pray for me?" And I do think, even though we would not subscribe on a doctrinal or practitional level to the idea of the little confessional booth at the front of the cathedral, but I mean the fact that is something that exists and that people utilize it means that people do recognize when I'm in dire straits, I want someone to talk to the man upstairs for me. Okay, so people recognize that. Be the kind of friend that someone will choose to pray for them when the time hits. So the next part of your question, though, is, well, how do you kind of take that to the next level? In my prayer, I would not, of course, be mean or anything at all. But in my prayer, I would say something like, and it's just me off the top of my head, I would say something along the lines of, and let's just say it's Drew, just so I have a name. And I pick on you because you just front and center right there. I say, God, I'm so thankful that I get to be with my friend Drew today. I know he's going through a really difficult time right now. He's reaching out to you through me, and I pray that I'll be a good influence on him. God, help him get through this really difficult time. And when he does, when you've seen him through this difficult time, please open his eyes so that he can recognize his need for you. And I would say something like that in my prayer. Now, that's not mean, right? That's not guilt-trippy or mean or anything. But if you say something like that, even as you're helping this person and praying for them, you're teaching them along the way. And you're opening up their heart to, like, okay, this can't be the last time that I talk to God. And then I would end the prayer and say, well, I'm so glad you asked me to pray for you. I'm glad I could be there to help you, and I'll be there whatever you need, anything that you need. And when you get through this, because we're going to get you through this together, when you get through this, don't let this relationship lag behind. Don't let what we did today be the last time that you recognize your need for God. I'd be pointed like that. That's what I would say off the top of my head. Does that make sense? Anything you want to add there? And that's a great opportunity. That's a really great opportunity.
I would definitely kind of add in, open the door to, if you want to pray for something else in the future, let me know. If you ever want to talk about the Bible, I'm real thankful you let me pray for you. Let's talk again sometime. Open the door for further conversation. About
show that it was an honor to be a part of that for them. That it was special for you to be invited. Seth, you get the last word.
Kind of going back to your point about how you put the squeeze on someone, and then Megan mentioned C.S. Lewis, and it reminded me of the quote of, Christianity is false, is of no importance, and it's true, of infinite importance. The only thing it cannot be is moderately important.
Yeah.
So, I would hope for the unbelievers, that's a great way to kind of segue into that, but hope for believers we're convicted enough where that's not.
The point is, when you talk to your friends about the gospel, it's time to be a cleaver and force them to make a decision, right? It's like, you can't just be casual about this. If you don't want to hear, then make it clear that you don't want to hear. And I won't preach to someone who doesn't want to listen to me, but if you want to hear it, then let's do this right. Get a Bible for you. Get a Bible. Let's read it. Let's study it. Let's do this right. Let's get you off the couch and get serious about this. All right, great comment, Seth.
You okay?
Good to have you done.
Yeah, good to hear.
Thanks for the comment.
Yeah, appreciate it. What kind of run will you get?
Oh, a little of this, a little bit of that. 5K all the way up to marathon, when I trained for it.